Hi guys, this quick video is about how to pick appropriate sources for your research report. So I'm going to share my screen here. You can look at some websites in order to get this done. Okay, so first of all, I want to go here. Okay, so for this research paper, you're going to have to use at least 5 sources. If you're doing a quality and thorough job on this paper, it's most likely that you will be using more than 5 sources. But for some topics, it could be that 5 sources will be sufficient, or there just won't be a lot more than 5 sources written on the particular topic. So that's a lower end. And to get started, you need to identify at least 5 sources that are going to be appropriate and helpful to you. And as you continue to work on this project over the next month or so, it's totally fine if you end up finding new sources and adding them to your list, or if you find that you end up going in a slightly different direction and you end up not using some of the sources that you identified up front. But you need, at least at this point, to have 5 different sources that you think will be able to be helpful as you work through this process. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you need to look for and how you need to look for it. But generally, as you identify these sources, you want to actually look through them. That doesn't mean you need to read the whole thing, but you can kind of scan through it and see if it's, one, understandable. If it's written in such technical language that you just have no idea what's going on, that's not going to be helpful to you. So that's not going to be a good source for you to choose. It needs to be something that you can actually understand for the most part. There may be certain terms or certain parts that are a little bit confusing, but for the most part, you need to be able to understand it. Otherwise, you shouldn't be using it. Second of all, we want to make sure that they're not too redundant. You may be able to find a few different very general websites that just share the same very general information about your topic, in which case one of them might be helpful, but 3 of them is not that helpful because they're not really adding anything new to what you're learning about. So one of the reasons that I had you guys identify different subtopics and make a topic outline is that as you're searching for sources, you can be not only searching for information about your general topic, but you can be searching for information about your different subtopics, and that might help you kind of flesh out the set of different sources that you think are going to be helpful and appropriate to you in writing your research paper. So at this point, you're looking for at least 5 sources. And I want to give you a little bit more criteria about what those sources should look like. So first of all, this is from the assignment on Canvas, and there's several different source types that you can use. The first source type, that's probably the most common source type that you guys are going to use, are just general online sources. And so these are the kinds of things that you might find through Google searches. There might be different kinds of websites. And of course, there's lots of websites out there, and there's lots of information out there on the internet. But in this case, I really want to focus your information and make sure that it's high quality information by narrowing the different websites that you look at to make sure that they are either .gov or .edu websites. So a .gov site is something that is published by either the federal or state or local government. And so there's going to be people that are experts in the field that are hired by different kinds of agencies that work as geologists or as environmental scientists or paleontologists or astrophysicists, depending on your topic. And those are the people that are going to be writing and publishing these sites. And so it just helps us make sure that you're looking at quality information if you're looking at a .gov site. And sometimes I've had people want to use government websites from other countries. Maybe they're writing about something in Iceland, or they're writing about something in Australia. And you can use information from other government websites as well. .edu sites are sites that are published by college and universities. And so again, the people that are doing research and teaching courses for colleges and universities should have the expertise behind them to make sure that they're presenting accurate and up-to-date information. So not to say there's not any other good quality information out there on the internet, but making sure that you're using either .gov or .edu websites is really going to ensure that that information is good. And if you have another website that you really want to use, like a .org site from maybe some sort of nonprofit or some sort of business, you can contact me and I'll check it out. But for the most part, again, I'm focusing you in this direction. And as I mentioned before, Wikipedia is a great source of information. I read multiple Wikipedia sites every single day. I love Wikipedia, but it's not a site that you can use to cite scientific information. You can use it to get a good overview of your topic. You can go down to the bottom of a Wikipedia site and look at the source list there, and then that might take you to other more specific websites or journal entries or reports that you can end up using as sources if you want. The next kind of source that you need to use at least one of is a peer-reviewed journal article, and in a minute I'm going to pull up the library webpage and help you find one of these sources. But a peer-reviewed scientific article, journal article, is written by somebody who is an expert in that field, who's doing original research in that field, and who publishes this information. And not only do they just publish it on their own, but it goes through a review by a panel of other experts in the field, other professional experts in the field, who review the information to make sure that the research process has been adequate, has been good quality, the statistical analysis has been good quality, and the assumptions and the kind of analysis that the author is making about what they saw is reasonable based on the kind of data that they're looking at. And so this is just something that helps kind of filter information to make sure that it's really high quality. And these sources tend to be pretty esoteric. They're very specific. They're very technical. They're not the best source for intro to geology students to learn about a particular topic, because they're going to honestly just be a little bit over your head, and in many cases might be a little bit over my head if they're in a field I don't know much about. But I do want you to at least look at one, pick one or two that are about your topic and read through them, look at the introduction, look at the discussion and results section, and try to pull out at least a couple pieces of information that can help fill out your research paper. So don't start by just choosing a bunch of peer-reviewed articles. You're going to be confused, lost, overwhelmed, and frustrated. But pick a few, probably like websites or books first, read through those, and then find a peer-reviewed journal article and do use it, do look at it, do learn about it, but don't expect that this is going to be kind of the backbone of sources for an intro to geology paper. There's other kinds of sources that you can use as well. You can use like non-peer-reviewed journals, things like National Geographic, Scientific American, etc. Those would be different kinds of like edited journals that have a good reputation, that write articles that aren't peer-reviewed articles but are pretty good quality information. Different kinds of documentary videos that you might come across. And there's other sources as well that you might come across, podcasts, etc. And if you have questions about them, please ask me. But those are kind of the kinds of sources that you're going to be using. And remember, at least one must be peer-reviewed, and the online sources must be .gov or .edu sources. So let me quickly bring up the Google to start out with. So when you're generally looking for online sources, and say you're looking for something like the different kinds of basalt columns in Iceland. That's maybe what you're writing about, like lava flows and basalt features in Iceland. When you're looking for things on Google, you can type in the different kinds of topics that you might be searching for. So like Iceland, you might write in basalt, you might write in lava, and you can look for that and kind of come through and look for different kinds of sources that might have interesting information. And you can see that some of these .gov sites are some of the first things to pop up. Something that I sometimes do is that as I'm searching, I'll just put in like USGS, which is the federal government's website or agency. That's kind of like the geology agency, and Iceland isn't in the US. So let's see what happens when I pull that up. And we can see if there's any publications by USGS about Iceland, and there are a couple here. And so that might be like a good way to identify some good quality sources about Iceland and basalt. Sometimes I might put in these topics and then just search for specific non-peer-reviewed but good quality scientific journals that I know about, like National Geographic, and see if National Geographic has published some interesting articles about this topic. And sometimes if some of these things are behind a paywall, like they want you to pay to look at the article, then don't do that. You should have access to some of these things through the FRC website as well. So let me then now take us to our FRC, oh, can I get there? Am I doing this? Can I do that? No? Let me see if I can just do this. FRC. Okay, so if we go to the Feather River College website, first of all, one of the main quick links on the bottom of the FRC website is the library. So if you go to the library, you'll have access to all the library databases. And I'm on campus right now, so I will be able to log right into the databases. But if you're at home, you should be able to log in remotely to search these databases, but it'll ask you for your login and your password, and that will be the same login and password that you use like for Canvas and to log on to student computers. So if you get to that point, beware, that's the information that you're gonna need. So things that you might want to look for, or places that you might want to look on your for sources would be to go to this article database. So you can see there's books. You can search for books as well. Article databases and videos. Those are probably like the 3 places that you might want to look for information. But let's start with article databases. And for article databases, you can type right in to this particular area. So for instance, you could write Iceland and you could write basalt as we looked before. And then below you can see that there's 2 boxes. One says peer reviewed and one says full text. So first of all, you are definitely going to want to search for only articles that we have access to the full text of, otherwise they're not that helpful. And you may, in some cases, want to look for peer-reviewed journal articles, but in some cases not want to use peer-reviewed articles. So let's just search, starting out with peer-reviewed journals, and see what information we have about Iceland and basalt. Oh, I don't know why I would have to do that. Next. I'm not sure why I needed to do that. You might need to do that at home as well. I just used my FRC account. Anyway, so we get into Iceland, basalt, and then first we had this box, scholarly peer-reviewed journals, checked. You can also kind of choose the time period over which you want different articles to, if you only want them from the last 20 years or going back longer. And then you can see that there's like lots and lots of different information that's coming up here, and you can kind of browse through and choose a couple sources that you think are going to be helpful. Remember, of course, it's way easier than you need to find more than 5 sources, but the key is you want to find at least 5 sources that you actually think are going to be helpful to you. You can also start to narrow down your field by saying Iceland basalt, and you could say columns, or you could say, I misspelled columns, so that's not going to be helpful. And you might want to look for information about how the columns form. Maybe that's one of your subtopics that you have. And then if you search there, you'll kind of narrow the scope of your search a little bit. So you should get fewer topics that might help you kind of identify articles that are really going to be helpful to addressing your topic in general and one of your subtopics in your topic outline. You could also choose to decide not to look for scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles, and you might want to look for other kinds of articles. And you could, instead of searching for topics, which is what we've been doing so far, you could also look for like a different source. So like I said before, maybe you could look and see if there's anything that's written by National Geographic, by saying Iceland, basalt columns, and National Geographic, and searching, and perhaps National Geographic has written articles about this. In this case, it hasn't, but maybe it's possible that it would have, and you could see that by kind of moving this information around. So anyway, this is how the database website works. That's how you would look for different kinds of peer-reviewed and non-peer-reviewed journal articles. And then if you back out all the way to the library webpage, I guess it's asking me to log in again. Library. You could also look for books and see if there's books in the FRC web FRC collection. So there's not going to be probably a lot of books that are super specific about your subtopic, or even your topic in general. But you know, if you're writing about Kilauea volcano, maybe there's a book about volcanoes in general that might have some information about hotspot volcanoes, or a chapter about Kilauea that would be helpful. So you could look at this book source, or you could look to see what kinds of documentary videos we have access to. And so you could type and you could see if there's anything about Iceland and basalt here, or Iceland and geology here in the video collection. Let's see what comes up. And when you do find videos that are in this area, this isn't really what we want. They'll be nice because they have transcripts that are available along with the videos. This doesn't really seem like what we want. But anyway, you can search for videos. Let's just maybe let it back out and just say Iceland, see what kind of videos might be available about Iceland. Oh, this is showing, this isn't really showing videos. This is showing more books. Interesting. Okay, well, I guess this the FRC website. Oh, this is, check out what's in the library. Anyway, okay, sorry, to be a little bit confusing. Oh, films on demand. Sorry, search up here to see the film information. Iceland, geology, maybe we'll put in, see what's in the film section. Okay, so again, just to show you, when you pull up these films, they in some cases show like a whole film, like a full feature-length documentary, but also and it will say if it's a full video here, like it does here and here, but also sometimes it will just show you like segments of a particular video. So this particular video is called Doomsday Volcanoes, but there's this one segment of the video that's just 2 minutes that's actually about Iceland. And so you're saving yourself time. You don't necessarily need to watch that whole video if you don't want to. You can, because it links to it. But this Nova 2013 documentary video has a short segment on Iceland. And so you can efficiently just watch that part. You can bring it up, and then you can also see the other segments of that particular video. You can look at the transcript as you watch it, if you're confused about a word they're saying and whatnot. So it's a pretty helpful tool. Okay, this is turned out to be a longer video than I meant it to be, but hopefully that's some helpful information in your research